Hey everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, I want to have a real conversation about something that's been on my mind a lot lately: AI, artificial intelligence, and software development. Specifically, how AI is changing our industry from those big tech layoffs you've heard about to my own personal experience in using GitHub Copilot at work to what it means for our careers. Grab a coffee. This might be a bit of a deep dive, but it's an important one. I would like to start with tech layoffs before I jump into developer skills. Unless you've been totally off the grid, you've heard the headlines about tech layoffs, especially in big companies, because those tend to be on the forefront of the news channels. Just in the last year or so, tech giants laid off tens of thousands of workers. Microsoft cut about 10,000 jobs, or 5% of its workforce. Google's parent company Alphabet let go about 12,000 employees, or 6%. Facebook slashed about 11,000 jobs. It's been kind of rough, especially in big techs. Those are very large numbers, and it took a lot from us as an industry. I mean, you hear about decade-long employees suddenly being laid off. Now, the official reasons given for those layoffs usually revolve around things like economic uncertainty, global economic pressures, overhiring during pandemic, and so on. And for sure, the economy's been weird, and many tech firms did stuff up rather quickly. But I and many others have this hunch that was another factor in play, and that's the rise of AI in usage at tech companies for tools and also using AI agents for automation. Think about it. At the same time these companies were trimming headcount, they were also heavily investing in AI. Microsoft, for example, poured billions of dollars into OpenAI, but also built their own AI tooling on Azure that allows companies to create AI integrations and AI agents using technology that Microsoft developed. But also, some leaders admitted the connection outright. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella basically said that AI coding tools like GitHub Copilot are now writing up to 30% of all the new, specifically new code. 30%, that number kind of blows my mind because in my experience, anecdotally speaking, I feel like the number is much lower. And it's not just Microsoft. At Amazon, CEO Andy Jassy reportedly told staff that as they deploy more generative AI and AI agent, they will need fewer people in certain roles moving forward. IBM went so far as to pause hiring for jobs that could be automated, especially back office functions, even replacing about 8,000 HR roles with an in-house AI chatbot in one case. So while companies aren't usually saying we fired these folks because AI will do their jobs in press releases, but the trend I feel like is there. And if you read between the line, AI definitely has a role to play in maintaining or cutting down or hiring more people. From my perspective, software developer, this trend is both exciting and a little bit unnerving. Exciting because AI can help us do large parts of my job, helps me be more productive. What's the downside? Unnerving is a little bit because one can't help to wonder, will tech jobs, mine or others, eventually disappear and be replaced with AI outright, or be replaced with other workers leveraging AI to do the same other work? Let me talk about GitHub Copilot, which I feel like is important because that experience is practical and firsthand. I've been using Copilot every day for almost 2 years. I was excited when I was given access to it at that time. From the moment I saw first multi-line auto code suggestions, I was sold and hooked. To the point when our Copilot program ended, I offered my boss to pay for it myself with my own money to keep using it. I was lucky enough to convince him not to remove my access. This lines up with a lot of other developers who have had experience with Copilot or other AI tools. There is actual research showing Copilot can speed up developers significantly. GitHub did a study when they had developers solve the same problem with and without Copilot. The group with Copilot finished the task 55% faster on average. That's no joke. Half the time is being saved. Maybe even less. Let's say I say 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. That time over, let's say a year, will add up to a huge number. One thing I love is how Copilot helps me stay in the flow. You know the state when you're fully focused and everything is clicking and you pay no attention to your surroundings. If I had to stop and look up documentation or search with Google or look up on Stack Overflow every time I have a question or every time I need to research something new, that breaks the flow. And Copilot often spares me of that. Now I have to mention the flip side. Sometimes Copilot can be distracting or even a little unhelpful. There is no magic, and it's definitely not perfect. For one, it can be a little too eager. When I'm trying to code by myself, it keeps coming up with suggestions that I really don't need, and they're just distracting. So I do snooze it once in a while. The other issue is quality and correctness. Copilot was trained on a ton of code from the internet, which includes great code, good code, not so good code, bad code, maybe outdated code, you name it. It sometimes suggests solutions that are inefficient, maybe not idiomatic based on current state of that specific technology, or possibly insecure. If you just blindly accept every suggestion that looks plausible, especially when you're in a hurry, that's not a good idea. I've caught myself doing that a few times, and now I pay a lot more attention to the suggestion, and even when I accept the suggestion, I review it very thoroughly. When overall output is faster, but code is buggy, really nobody wins. If the AI writes something incorrect and you don't catch and review it or test it, that's on you, that's not on AI. I, over the years, learned that I need to look at code that AI generated same way as I look at people writing code on our team. Code is code, and it needs to be reviewed. It needs to go through standard process. It needs to have tests, whether AI writes tests or humans write tests. In other words, using AI is not a good reason to forego all the best practices. So, to summarize, my overall verdict on Copilot: super helpful overall and sometimes a little distracting, and needs supervision just like humans. Now let me move on to the next topic. If AI tools can make one developer as productive as, say, 2 developers of some tasks, what does that mean to software industry job market? I have a pretty strong belief here. AI impact on jobs is real, and I think many leadership positions have been downplaying or underplaying it in public. And I get why. Nobody wants to spark panic. But let's call a spade a spade. When companies see that one developer with AI can do the work of 2 without AI, that will be a factor in hiring and firing decisions. And I feel like it's disingenuous to deny that. Publicly, most CEOs and tech execs have been very careful how they talk about it. They often emphasize that AI will help people work more efficiently, or they would say, we're reallocating roles, not eliminating work. If you read some layoff memos of CEOs, they always point to macroeconomic conditions, cost cutting, refocusing the company's priorities and so forth. For instance, Satya Nadella's memo about Microsoft 10,000 layoff talked about aligning cost structure and demand and investing in growth areas such as AI, but didn't explicitly say, yeah, we're cutting jobs because AI can do some of them. Meta's Mark Zuckerberg, during their cuts, talked about wanting a leaner, more efficient company. Behind closed doors, or in small forums, you kind of catch, if you read between the lines, an acknowledgement that AI is part of the reason, the whole reason, clearly, but part of the reason for realigning the employment picture at big tech. From my vantage points, I feel like it's an open secret in our industry. AI is allowing tech companies to tighten up the teams and still get whatever they plan to do done. They won't explicitly say, yeah, we're cutting jobs because AI can replace the workers, because it's not a one-to-one thing, clearly. But consider this pattern. Companies like Meta and Google have trimmed a lot of non-engineering roles, saying they want a higher ratio of engineers. Why? Possibly because those engineers have AI tools that can be supercharged, or possibly because managers can manage more peoples by leveraging AI. I don't really want to sound cynical, but I think a lot of leadership folks are not fully leveling with the public or even their employees about how quickly AI reshapes their workforce. It's happening, I feel like, quietly. Remember how automation hit manufacturing jobs 100 years ago? Blue-collar jobs got automated by robots over the last century. But it was somewhat slow and kind of visible. You could see factory closures, you could see assembly lines at auto plants. It was happening literally across decades, if not centuries. AI, however, is moving at neck-breaking speed. 5 years ago, just 5 years ago, nobody talked about AI replacing jobs. To dissuade any potential rumors based on what I'm saying, I don't think this means that our industry is doomed to be humanless. But I do think we as employees, and I just don't mean developers, I mean project managers, designers, really everyone at the company, need to wake up to reality. It's a bit of a wake-up call for me personally as well. If AI is indeed part of why companies are cutting jobs, I better ensure that I'm bringing something big to the table that AI cannot or will not replace. In other words, I want to be more valuable to my company because of AI, not less valuable. And what does that mean? That means I have to work on my skills. So let's jump into that part of the podcast. Specifically, I want to highlight 6 skills that in my mind are invaluable in the world of AI being constantly used in software development. I have this mantra: focus on the skills that make you uniquely human and valuable to your company. The things that AI can't easily do or won't do. The things that actually become more valuable when you and AI work together. I want to break down 6 core skills that I believe every developer and really knowledge workers in general should strengthen to stay relevant and thrive alongside AI. These come from my own thoughts and observations, advice I've gotten from other people, and various articles and studies I've read thus far. In fact, one analysis I read put it perfectly. The safest path in an AI-driven workspace is to develop the skills AI can't replicate, like critical thinking, communications, decision-making, and the ability to lead or work in mixed human-AI teams. Yes, I basically say soft skills and high-level problem-solving stuff. Let's go through my list. Number 1, by a good margin, is critical thinking. We need to be excellent critical thinkers now more than ever. What do I mean specifically by critical thinking? I mean the ability to analyze information, question assumptions, and make logical decisions based on your knowledge. AI, as powerful as it is, lacks deep, true understanding. In a sense, it's a very complicated machine that comes up with the next word that somebody could say, based clearly on knowledge and maybe even an output of other people thinking critically. It can output code or answers that look confident, but it doesn't actually quote unquote reason or quote unquote know why something is the way it is. At least not today. It won't know if the approach is fundamentally flawed, or it's misinterpreting the problem, or it's basing it on some very popular article that was simply incorrect or is outdated. So, who's responsible for that? That's us. We have to be the ones who say, hang on, is that result actually correct? Does it make sense? Does it pass a sniff test? For example, if Copilot or ChatGPT gives you a piece of code for a solution, you should habitually review it and think through the edge cases, through your own reasoning, through your own knowledge, through the product outline you're building. We must not become passive acceptors of AI outputs. One article I came across emphasized that while AI can crunch the data and suggest decisions, it cannot evaluate, at least not today, its own biases or, like I said, very popular articles that outweigh for some reason other parts. I sometimes play a little game. Whenever AI gives me something, I try to think of scenario where it would break or a reason why it could be wrong. It's a good exercise to keep your critical faculty sharp. Also, critical thinking helps in higher level software design and architecture. AI might help you write the code, but deciding what needs to be built versus why we need to build something or how it should be built, at least today, that seems to be beyond what AI can do. That might change as time goes on. So, what is my job? My job is to hone that critical thinking skill. How do I do that? I literally exercise my brain as I exercise my body. I read technical articles and blog. I also solve puzzles. I also play games like chess. I do katas or exercises. The ability to reason through complex problems in my mind is like a muscle. And that's the one that AI, in my opinion, won't be replacing soon. A related skill is the ability and also a desire to continuously learn. That, in my mind, is also an acquired skill. I, for example, still read 3-4 technical books a year, and I read dozens of blog articles every week, including specifically those on AI and AI usage. I also sometimes watch YouTube videos on AI. I feel like I'm a good example of a dedicated developer constantly working to improve. Now let's move on to the next skill, and that's debugging. Oh yeah, a good old debugging. Things we have done, or at least I have done for decades. I truly believe that as long as there is software, there will be bugs, whether a human coded them in or AI. As a result, we'll always need people who are great at tracking the bugs down and fixing them. If AIs write more code and might even argue, we'll have even more debugging to do. Writing code is one thing, understanding a complex system and diagnosing when something went wrong is completely another skill. And AI is getting better at it, but it's not great at it in my experience yet. Debugging requires a mix of logical reasoning, maybe intuition, definitely experience, definitely knowledge of the software you're debugging, and definitely knowledge of the business your software is supporting. Sometimes all of that is quite complex. AI can definitely help you with some aspects, like pointing out what might be causing a specific exception. or suggesting a fix or something to look for, but in my experience, a skilled human debugger is irreplaceable so far. I've had times when Copilot suggested a fix for a bug and it just wasn't correct. I had to dig in. I had to sometimes even add console.log statements in my browser. I had to write some unit tests to try to replicate the problem. I had to examine traces, sometimes from multiple sources. I had to put together a picture in my head. I had to read code from multiple repositories, which Copilot is struggling a little bit to do at this point. One reason debugging will remain crucial is that AI doesn't truly understand sometimes the intent of the code. It might pass tests by coincidence or produce a superficially correct output that's actually wrong in some edge cases. And we have to catch those, and we have to figure that out. Also consider that AI might enable creating more complex systems faster. Those systems will break in unexpected ways sometimes. Who will handle that? Maybe in a few decades AI would be better at it, but today I feel like it cannot replace humans for debugging specific problems. It kind of sounds maybe like a bad news, but it's really simply a reminder. Don't skip debugging and testing just because AI wrote the code. Don't skip developing your skill set. Don't quit on a problem halfway through. Stick with it. Stick-to-itiveness is really an outdated skill, if it is a word, that is essential to debug. Sometimes you have to simply spend more time thinking through the problem to come up with an answer. What we need to do is think beyond maybe even technology. Cultivate patience and discipline, because debugging can be frustrating and does require a clear head. But there is also certain satisfaction in being a bug whisperer, the person who can unravel the toughest issue. That skill will make you a hero on your team and more valuable to your company with or without AI. So being a great at debugging is, in my opinion, a future-proof skill set. The next logical skill set that I come up with, and I organize them in my mind in order of importance, is communication. I can't stress enough how important communication is. And in age of AI, I feel like it's more important or less important. It's one of those classic soft skills that some developers underrate. It's not just about talking. It's about writing clearly, listening and paying attention, and being able to express ideas in a way that others understand. Why is that so crucial in the context of AI? Well, as AI becomes part of our workflows, we will often find ourselves in roles where we need to explain things, maybe explaining to a non-technical manager why AI's recommendation should or shouldn't be followed, or explaining to a teammate how to use AI tool, or even more importantly, explaining to AI what you want it to do. Let's not forget, software is a team sport. Even if AI writes chunks of code, we still have to discuss requirements with stakeholders, do code reviews with colleagues, write documentation for end users, and so forth. Clear communication can save projects from failure. Now, throw AI into the mix. Imagine a scenario where half of your team is using AI tool and half isn't, or each person is getting different suggestions. You'll need good communication to stay in sync and share what's working or what's not working. For me personally, communication was an idea of growth. English isn't my first language, as you could probably pick up from my accent, and working in an English-dominated tech environment meant I had to actively improve at expressing myself. Over the years, I worked very hard at it to the point where I was very comfortable giving multiple presentations per year in English to fellow developers. Not only that, but when I was learning English and I could speak just a few words when I came to the US, I worked very hard at it every day. I was listening to a radio, I was reading books in English, I was watching TV. When I was doing any of that, if I heard something I didn't understand, I would always pull out the dictionary and look up the meaning, or thesaurus for that matter. That became a habit. Interestingly enough, I stick with it today. Just a few days ago, I was listening to an audiobook, a fiction audiobook, not technical one, and I heard a word that I didn't know. I still looked it up. And I feel like my English is pretty good, as I got A's in college in both literature and language. One more interesting angle. Communication in the age of AI might involve interacting with AI, interfacing with it in some ways using English, like writing good commit messages that an AI reviewer can parse, or writing comments or text messages into your software that AI would use to understand the software a little bit better. Or you need to describe what you want AI to do. You have to write a prompt, aka you become a prompt engineer. In my mind, that's a new form of communication skill. Not just human to human anymore, but human to AI or AI to human. There was a source I read that gave a great example. Managers who can explain AI generated insights in a clear way help teams trust and adopt AI solutions more effectively. I think this will apply to all levels. If you're the dev who can translate between AI output and a non-technical client expectation or vice versa, you're golden. So work on this. Maybe practice summarizing complex technical topics in a simple way for your manager. Write design docs that AI could use to write code. Speak up in meetings. Do presentations. Read books. Listen to the radio. Do whatever you can to improve your communication skills. Now I'm going to move on to the next soft skills, which is empathy and other related interpersonal skills. This might sound a little bit fluffy for a technical discussion, but hear me out. Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, is an incredibly important in building products and in working with a team. Why do I include this here as a critical skill in the age of AI? Because the more we integrate with AI, the more human touch stands out as something uniquely valuable. AI doesn't have empathy. It doesn't know what a user feels when using our app. It doesn't sense that teammate is having a rough day or when a client is nervous about a project or a feature we're delivering. We as humans do. And those things, in my mind, matter a lot. A developer with empathy can design a better user experience. They can think about it from a user perspective. They can also assist users in the emotional journey through the app. Empathy also makes you a better team player and a better leader if you go that route. When you can put yourself in others' shoes, whether I'm talking about empathy or sympathy, you collaborate more effectively. You resolve conflicts more easily because you understand where the other person is coming from. You help mentor junior devs better because you remember what it was like to be in their shoes. These interpersonal skills like active listening, patience, giving and receiving feedback gracefully create a positive working environment which has nothing to do with AI and everything to do with us as humans. There was an article emphasizing in an AI-rich workplace, quality like emotional intelligence and empathy are essentials to keep teams cohesive and productive. I believe it with my whole heart. I've been in teams where empathy was lacking, people threw code all over the wall, designers and developers were at odds, not listening to each other. Blame games became a thing to do. Those teams, I feel like, don't last and they're definitely not productive. By contrast, teams with high level of empathy, emotional intelligence, and respect for each other, where people communicate effectively but yet kindly, those teams always thrive and they deliver, more important. Also, as AI automates tasks, jobs may shift toward roles that involve human interactions, like coordinating with clients or understanding their needs more deeply. I feel like interpersonal skills will be at a premium. So don't brush this off because it isn't a new framework um, or a new programming language to learn. In practical terms, you can work on this by just being mindful in your daily interaction with both workers and possibly your friends and family. Practice empathy by considering others' viewpoints in meetings and conversations. If a colleague is struggling, offer help or acknowledge how hard his or her work is. If you're in a code review, remember that the person on the other end of the PR is a human, and phrase your comments constructively and again with kindness. These little things foster goodwill and strong professional relationships. And guess what? Strong relationships often lead to better career stability. People want to keep working with colleagues who are not only skilled, but also a pleasure to work with. And empathy is the key to that. Jumping on to the next important skills, which is a physical and mental health. You might be thinking, what does it have to do with AI in software development? To me, it has everything to do with long-term success in a fast-changing field. Physical and mental well-being are like the foundation upon which all of your other skills stand. If the foundation cracks, everything else can crumble. Coding is mentally and sometimes even physically demanding work. We sit for hours, sometimes with a bad posture. We stare at screens, we juggle complex logic in our heads. It can be really draining. And on the stress of potential layoffs, learning new AI skills, imposter syndrome that I personally deal with at times, and tight deadlines, it's a lot for one brain to handle. I learned the hard way in my career that if you neglect your health, you will burn out. Since that happened, or maybe it didn't happen to me, I'm not going to dwell on that, I've made my health a priority. I exercise every day. I shoot for a minimum of 6 days a week. Oftentimes it's 7. For example, I have exercised for about 100 days straight at this point. And before that was only 1 day break. I try to get good sleep. Sometimes that's a struggle. Sometimes I have to drink some hot tea before I go to bed. Sometimes I have to go through mental exercises that I learned by reading how Army teaches recruits to sleep. It's not just me preaching this. There is growing awareness industry-wide that we have to take care of ourselves like athletes do. I read a great quote from a software developer saying, coding is so cerebral that we need to take care of our mental health, just like athletes take care of their bodies. Basically, treating mental fitness as an analog to physical fitness for programmers. It really resonated with me. If athletes need rest days and training routines, we might need meditation or walks or just watching mindless cat video to unplug. From a physical angle, something as simple as 30-minute brisk walk, or some physicians say 20 minutes at an elevated heart rate each day, can boost your mood and clarity. I often find that my best ideas or breakthrough happen away from the keyboard, often in the shower. I can't explain that, but sometimes I have great ideas in the shower, or when I wake up in the middle of the night, something comes to mind. And I oftentimes email myself in the middle of the night if something sounds like an idea I need to pursue. A relaxed mind can be more creative and solve problems better. Mental health practices like mindfulness or journaling, which I incidentally do that as well, not every day, but a lot of days, It can build your mental resilience. This resilience is crucial when facing stressful change. Like maybe half of my team got laid off. It didn't happen to me, but this is a good example. It builds anxiety in humans. If you're already dealing with anxiety or burnout, some small changes that improve your mental health could be very, very beneficial. If you are in a habit of taking care of your mental state, you will navigate high anxiety situation more calmly. And let's be blunt. A healthy body supports a healthy mind. Regular exercise improves concentration and cognitive function. Good sleep hugely impacts your ability to think logically and creatively. So the skill or habit of maintaining your physical and mental health is actually a productivity hack and a career longevity strategy. As developers, we might work until our 60s or 70s even. It's a long game and you want to be sharp all the way through. And yes, hit the gym, do yoga, which I love but don't do quite as much. Cycle, I also do that. Play different sports. I feel like I'm a little too old for active sports. Or simply just walk around your neighborhood for a little bit. All of that helps you. It helps you from both mental and physical perspective. In mental perspective, just learn how to unplug. I find myself that listening to audiobooks helps me, but also exercising strenuously when I can't think about work because I'm just struggling to breathe is also helpful. Taking care of your brain and your body is crucial for everyone. So think of staying healthy as sharpening the saw. You can't cut wood all day without taking time to sharpen the saw. Your mind and your body are your saw. And my final skill set, which you might find somewhat ironic, but I find extremely important, that is developing a skill to work effectively with AI. It's last in my list, but absolutely not least. Every one of us, developers, need to get good at working with AI. This is a more technical or practical skill, but it's the one that combines all of the above skills that I talked about. We have to treat AI as a new tool in our toolbox, like how spreadsheets became a must-have skills in 80s and 90s or internet in late 90s, 2000s. AI interaction, I feel like, is a skill to have in 2020s and beyond. What does that mean to have a skill set of working with AI? A few things come to mind. Prompting, verifying, and integrating. Prompting is basically the skill of communicating with AI system to get them to do what you want, or giving the right context to Copilot to generate the code you need. It's almost an art, phrasing things in a way AI can understand and giving it the right hints. Some folks may be naturally good at it, but everyone can learn and improve with practice. I noticed that when I give Copilot a better function name or a better comment, it would give me a better suggestion. So I iteratively learn to talk to Copilot through the prompts that I'm making. Similarly, knowing how to ask ChatGPT a coding question or a question about exercise can yield way better help than just saying, this doesn't work or I want to be healthy. So that's one part. Verifying means never blindly accepting a suggestion. It's also a skill we need to develop through discipline and also testing what AI outputs and thinking critically, going back to my skill number one, about the suggestion. And finally, what does it mean integrating? Integrating meaning that weaving AI into your developer or manager workflow or product owner workflow more efficiently. Knowing when to use it and when to snooze it, knowing how to use the output, knowing how to ask smaller questions and then integrate them together. All those are skill sets. If you're already using AI tools daily, you will naturally over time build that skill set. It's like using Stack Overflow or Google. The more you do it, the better you know how to phrase your questions. There is evidence that those who embrace AI tools will have an edge. A report I read said that workers who understand and effectively use AI are more likely to stay relevant and employed. And it makes total sense. We are living through the age of AI. My core message here, and honestly the motto of this entire episode, keep using AI at work and at home, but mainly it's about software development, so work. Keep using AI at work to get better at working with AI at work. The more you use these tools, the more you'll understand their strengths and weaknesses and quirks. You'll also reduce your fear of them. I know some devs are a bit afraid. Copilot is doing stuff I don't understand or generating code that doesn't make sense to me. I encourage you to experiment and learn and don't quit. Yes, sometimes AI will do something unexpected. Chuck it to a learning experience. Over time, you and AI will form a strong partnership, like I feel like I have formed with Copilot over the last 2 years. And I gained a lot of knowledge on how to ask questions from AI. And what is interesting to me that I feel like every day I encounter a situation where my prompt doesn't quite yield the correct result. And every time that happens, I feel like I learn, and the next time I do a little bit better. So make it a point to incorporate AI also into your learning path. You can ask AI questions about technology. You can have AI build you a learning path. That's another way you can interact with AI at work and leverage this tremendous tool that I feel like didn't exist just 5 years ago, but now I find myself missing it as soon as it's gone. And that's what I said when I mentioned early in this episode that I was begging my boss not to take the tool away from me. So these are my 6 picks for skills to work on for developers and literally anybody in the software industry. Develop the following 6 skills: critical thinking, debugging, communication, empathy, health, and AI tool prowess. It's a mixture of technical and human-centric skills. In my experience, and from what I gather in industry discussions, these are going to be super valuable for decades to come. Strengthening these areas makes you more adaptable and more resilient in the face of change. AI or not, they're great skills to have, and with AI, they may be make or break differentiators. Let's go over to the conclusion of this, in my mind, very heartfelt episode. We've covered a lot, so let's zoom out and wrap things up. The world of software development is changing fast, largely thanks to AI. We've seen that in very tangible ways. Huge companies tightening their belts and hinting that AI is part of the reason. New tools like GitHub Copilot becoming as normal as Stack Overflow or Google search. The very nature of our work is evolving. It's normal to feel a bit anxious about this. I certainly have had my moments. But I want to leave you with a message of empowerment and adaptability. Firstly, remember that technology disrupting jobs is nothing new. It happened throughout human history many a times. And while there are always painful transitions, we humans have consistently found ways to create new forms of work and stay useful. The key each time is adaptation. The ones who adapted thrive. Those who resisted maybe not so much. I see AI just being the next big wave of change. And like a wave, you can either surf or let it crush you. I suggest you learn to surf. Adapting means learning new skills, staying curious, and not clinging too hard to old ways just because they're comfortable. It means rethinking our roles, maybe writing less code ourselves and spending more times writing AI prompts and reviewing generated code, or focusing more on design and architecture. It might mean continuously learning new AI tools as they emerge, such as agents. This can be fun if you embrace it. I try to treat it as a game or a puzzle. Oh, a new AI tool that can help me write end-to-end tests? Let me try it out, see if they can help me. This type of curious mindset turns fear into joy in exploration. One thing I feel strongly about, we have to keep our human-centered skills sharp. Our creativity, empathy, critical judgment, those are all our human traits that are crucial. As an analysis of AI transition bluntly puts it, you have two choices. Learn to work with AI or get replaced by AI, or get replaced by a developer that's using AI. Learning to work with AI means doubling down on what humans do best, such as collaboration. It's not a man or machine in my mind. It's man in the machine. Also, take care of yourselves during this change. It's easy to get caught up in the hustle of learning the next thing or worrying about job security. But pace yourself. A burnt out, frazzled mind won't serve you, whereas a healthy, rested mind will adapt 10 times faster. So do whatever keeps you sane and healthy, mentally and physically. Whether you run, you play an instrument, you read, you listen to audiobooks, even watch TV, you play games, you do meditation, whatever works for you. It's not one size fits all in my mind. Find an outlet that makes you happy. Find a hobby that makes you mentally joyful. I remain optimistic that AI in the long run can create more opportunities than it's going to destroy. It can free us from mundane tasks and even can reduce the grind at work. But I'm also realistic that this won't happen automatically. We have to intentionally shape our careers and perhaps even push our companies and societies in the right direction, like advocating for training program, fair use of AI, and so forth. For the leaders or managers listening, be honest and proactive with the teams about AI. Encourage people to learn and give them space to learn and adapt. Some companies are already doing internal upskilling programs on AI, and I think that's great. Because if you expect your workforce to magically cope with the change without support, that's a recipe for stress and failure. For the individual contributors and developers, take charge of your own growth. The tools for that are out there and they're cheap. You can get a personal ChatGPT subscription for only $20 a month. It's literally one lunch and a coffee. Isn't your career worth one lunch and a coffee a month? So here's my core message. If I had to distill it, is this: stay adaptable and keep leveling up your human skills while learning to partner with AI. If you do that, you're going to be okay. More than okay. You might find that AI becomes your competitive edge rather than a threat. Thank you for hanging out with me and listening to these reflections. It's crazy time to be in tech, but it's also an exciting time. If you take one thing away from this 30 minutes of me rambling, let it be that change isn't to be feared if you're prepared. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep an open mind. We're all figuring this out together. Stay safe, stay sharp, and code on, with a little help from AI. Until the next time, take care, everybody.